So I can speak to the public school parents because I was one. The whole idea of, I don't have capacity, I don't have the patience, I don't have the resources, I don't have the time, I don't have the money. Throw in any blank excuse, really. Throw in all of them at once. We are limiting God in the story when we do that.
Well, welcome back to the Colorado Homeschool Podcast, where we know that you can homeschool. It's such a delight. We want to equip you, help you find the strength and the resources to do it. I'm your host, Kashia, and you're going to love the conversation we are going to do today. We're talking about one of the most common objections that I get all the time, which is, I don't have the patience to do this. My children would fight all day long, or we don't have the discipline, etc. Fill in the blanks. It's always the relationship that comes up. They're worried about what's going to happen. So we are going to cover some nuggets. We're going to get some encouragement, and you got to stay to the end because the tip that we get at the end is chef's kiss. So good. So thanks for being here with us today, guys. We've got a wonderful guest. You guys maybe already know her because she is an author, illustrator, and podcaster herself. What is the name of your podcast? It's Upright Christian Parenting.
You got it.
Yes. And I've been listening to it. It's great. That's what we're going to talk about. So my guest, Hannah Pierrou, is with us today. Thank you, Hannah, for being here. Hannah is wonderful, guys. You guys are going to love it. She and her husband, Cody, are parents to 3 kids from 16 down to 7. They live in the mountains, but you probably know her as the Treehouse Storyteller. As a matter of fact, if you came to the Rocky Mountain Homeschool Conference, maybe you heard her. And if you didn't, you might want to get the recording from her workshop. So welcome, Hannah. Thank you so much for being here.
Kashia, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
I am too, Hannah. I can't wait because I am privileged and blessed that I get to talk to a lot of people who are thinking about homeschooling. And a lot of times they're talking themselves out of it for this one thing. And that's what we're going to talk about is kind of your parenting podcast mentality. It's the fear of their relationships. It's my children and I don't get along or they won't listen to me. And you run this parenting podcast. So I thought you're going to be the perfect guest to talk about this. So let's get into it. Let's start with what are you seeing? Have you noticed something going on with the modern education and how that's setting up children? Are they flourishing? Are there some pain points that are coming from that from your perspective? Doing a parenting podcast, what would you say?
Yeah, so I've had some interesting opportunities lately. It's funny, there's places that I would expect at this point that I wouldn't be allowed in, and the Lord has been really faithful. So I have been able to speak within the walls of a couple public schools. And that opportunity has allowed me to open my eyes to, this is what parents are dealing with in the public schools. I also stay very connected. Now I'm in Jefferson County. We hit national news a lot of times.
All the time.
It's like every other day.
Yeah.
It's horrible, as you know. But because I'm in Jefferson County and because I'm a homeschool mom, that doesn't mean I don't pay attention to what's going on. I stay very much in the know. I am a huge part of at least watching and studying what's going on in Jefferson County and our school systems, what moms and dads are concerned about in our area. And I think it's really not limited to Jeffco at all. It's across the board. But one of the things that I have really seen is that in elementary school, parents feel like kids are kept fairly safe from a digital standpoint. So this is a conversation we just had recently. You know, we're talking through like, what issues do you guys have? Like, pull me in, show me what's going on. How can I help advocate for this? And long term, I'm wanting to, pull them into convincing them like, hey, let's homeschool. I'll help you. I'll hold your hand. But just being there for them and listening and trying to guide them through their public school experience, I think is just as important at times. And so the thing that I kept hearing is, okay, we feel like, this whole screen time thing seems decent, which I would probably disagree, but from their perspective seems decent in elementary school. But then the second they hit 6th grade, the second they go into middle school, it's like all blocks are off. Kids are seeing stuff they shouldn't see. They're showing up to board meetings. They're saying, hey, this isn't a safe environment. They're just browsing YouTube and seeing, horrible things while in the school walls. And it comes down to a quote unquote, a funding issue of, we can't fix that. There's a funding issue. And so it's just kind of funny whether that's real or not, it doesn't feel real to me. Every teacher should want, in my mind, you should want to protect your kids. You should want to put those blocks on. Usually you can without funding. So it seems kind of weird to me that was their response. So I do see that technology piece is a very thick component of school. We know in America, kids on average are on screens 7 hours a day.
That's absurd to
Yes.
me. It's absurd.
Crazy. It's crazy.
Yes.
So screens is an overarching theme, but with screens, we see indoctrination come in certain programs. So it's not just a screen time problem. It is what is happening on the screen. It is an anxiety issue. It's building anxiety, which is playing into suicide statistics, unfortunately, and, mental health concepts and things like that. I think also parents are starting to realize they want time. And I think there's a great deal of parents that are going, okay, if I can't protect them within those walls, I want to be able to protect them at home. I can bring them home. But, I'd love to talk to your point of why so many parents doubt that.
Yeah, it's so funny. That is the number. It used to be people homeschooled for one reason, biblical worldview. They want to teach their children biblical worldview, which is important. And we're still seeing that. But the number one reason now has less to do with faith, although I think maybe faith is driving it, but it's that exactly what you said, safety. 80% of parents cite safety, whether it's bullying or the things that they're exposed to, the indoctrination they're receiving in school. So that's really key. And whatever the catalyst was, there's so many different reasons. We saw this in COVID. There was a lot during that. But since then, it seems like there's an incident or something that happens. It's the straw that broke the camel's back. Sure. And there are these families who pull their child out of school and they're going, now what? Because the normal is different. Do you have any advice? Even just talking about what you said, screens and screen time, what would be your recommendation?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's a lot to unpack there, so I'll do my best. But I really think that, I'll kind of give a backstory. So I can speak to the public school parents because I was one. We started out, I very much wanted to homeschool my kids. And that is what I did. I started homeschooling and then I let these little lies creep in and I started to doubt my own ability. And I saw it as, oh my word, I'm going to fail and I can't fail at this. So I better just quit so that I don't fail and don't fail my kids. And so I mainstreamed my son when I started to notice, my oldest, when I started to notice he wasn't reading, and I'm going to air quote this, he wasn't reading on schedule. He wasn't reading where his peers were reading. And I really thought I must be doing something wrong because I'm teaching him this. I'm using all these resources. I'm reading with him every single night for honestly until I fall asleep. I mean, I was going above and beyond as a mom trying to teach him how to read and it just wasn't clicking. And so I put him in public school for first grade. And then we moved at second grade up to the mountains. So we moved into a whole, Jefferson County at the time was the very desired, this is one of the best school districts. So I'm like, okay, we'll just try, we'll try public school up here. It'll help us meet some families because in the mountains, you don't live super close together in homes. And so you want that community. So that was our thought and our idea behind that. Like, okay, well, we'll do this again. We did it for a couple years and then COVID happened. And like so many others, we're sitting here, I'm working from home, honestly, barely working because of COVID circumstances. My husband is working from home and we're sitting here in the same room as our kids being virtually taught over Zoom or whatever it was. And we're hearing information spoken as fact that was not fact. And so my husband and I looked at each other across the room and we're like, what is this? What is happening? And we realized, like, I'll go back a second. When we first were homeschooling, I think this is so important to note. My husband wasn't supportive initially because he also was worried about it. He was worried about the social thing, like most, what's the average concerns. I think because I didn't fully have his support and we weren't fully aligned, that allowed that room for doubt. Well, fast forward to 2020. And now we're sitting there experiencing the public school home learning, whatever we call that, virtual learning. we both then were on 100% the same page. And I think it's so important. I always tell parents, get on the same page.
Yeah.
It's not going to work if you're not on the same page. Do the research together, read things together, read statistics together, have conversations with other parents together, and, really feel like you are doing this as a unified unit, because that is who you are as, a husband and wife. That is what we are. We are very much supposed to be aligned in those ways. And so ever since I had Cody's buy-in round 2, we've never looked back. It's so different. And I know he has my back now, and I'm not, if there's something I'm hesitant or worried about, he carries me, and it's fine. And we make up the difference.
Yeah, I love that. Ecclesiastes 4:12, I think, is a cord of 3 is not easily broken. And that's exactly what I see. Like, if you don't have that buy-in, and I start with this when I talk to new homeschoolers too, the first thing, it's counterintuitive because they just want to find curriculum. But I say, no, write down your vision. Define it. Why are you doing this? What is the end goal? What are the things you want to avoid? What are the things you want to gain? And really keep that in front of you. And that's part of that, like doing it as a team. I love that. That was so good. And I love that you can be relatable, because so many homeschoolers, it's so funny. I feel like it's Satan the accuser. He comes in and he's like, you can't, you're going to fail. And it's so normal. Like, all of us feel that way. And I have adult children who I have graduated. And I remember in this world, I'm talking to some fantastic homeschool moms, and even post homeschooling. And I have successful adults who love the Lord, who are doing well. And here I am going, man, I wasn't a very good homeschooler. And I have to back off, get behind me, Satan, right? Like, so you're not alone. I love that. That was very encouraging, Hannah. I love that. That was awesome. So when you did that, let's get back to the parenting and the struggles of like the relationship stuff. How did that work? Were they resistant to coming back home, or what was there? Was there some relational things that you had to work on to kind of reclaim the connection with your kids?
Sure. There was it's interesting. My son, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's just something that the Lord put on his heart, but all of elementary school told me, hey, I want to be homeschooled for middle school. And I have yet to ever really figure out what was behind that, like what was the driving force. But obviously he had experience homeschooled with me. And then we went into, a few years of elementary school, and he and I had this kind of just a known agreement, like, yeah, we're not going to do middle school up here. And there were some statistics that we had heard about our middle school. I think it was 1 in 6 kids had gender identity issues in a certain classroom, a very specific classroom that I had another friend that their son was in this classroom. It's kind of one of those weird circumstances where the dad was asking his son, hey, who'd you hang out with today? And he said the kid's name. And then he goes, oh, is that a boy or a girl? Because it was just kind of a neutral name. And he goes, Dad, I don't know. No one can tell these days. I actually don't know. And so his dad was, sitting here going, let's go have a conversation with your teacher and figure out why you don't know if your friend is a boy or a girl. So they did, and they ended up pulling him out. And so I had, while my oldest was still in elementary school before COVID, I knew that was what was coming. We're going to be up against this. And since then, I've seen it obviously enter into the elementary age much sooner, much earlier. That is a huge driving force for, I think, our area up here. There is a lot of identity issues. There's a lot of mental health issues. We had the Evergreen shooting the very same day that Charlie was assassinated. And I mean, my phone was blowing up because I had, I'm dealing with the Charlie thing, and then my word, now Evergreen, like, what is going on with the world? And on top of that, my son got his permit that very morning. So, I mean, it was quite the day for us. But, I really think, getting back to your question of, really what is driving a lot of parents, there's so many other options. And I think parents are starting to wake up, veils are starting to come off, and they're going, wait, I don't necessarily have to deal with 20 school emails and school phone calls and voicemails and the agenda of the teacher. When people tell me, oh, I don't have patience for my kids at home, I say, well, you know what? I'm sorry, but I don't have patience for someone else's schedule. I don't have patience for waiting in the drop-off line. That, to me, is something I don't really have the capacity for. Like, that sounds overwhelming to me because I've done it. I've done that life. I have, you're running late. It's just your heart's pounding. I'm a terrible mom. I'm running late. I got hung up, and you feel that. But when they're just with you, you don't have those crazy moments of, we've got to get out the door. Where are your shoes? Why are you late? And there's so many mornings of just yelling at each other to get in the car to get to school. And that's our memory of getting to school. And man, I would so much rather my kids get to sleep in and I'm fed in God's word before they even wake up, and we wake up and we eat breakfast together and we start our day.
Yeah, I love it because you're right. There's a lot of misperceptions or information really about what homeschooling is, because it's not doing school at home. It's a total different paradigm, right? Like, you have the opportunity to infuse your child with so much more biblical worldview and enjoying them. But I hear that you mentioned that you use the word, I don't have the patience. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. I don't have the patience to be a homeschooler, or my kids drive me crazy. Like this, it really is a relationship issue. And have you seen, even with friends or people that you've helped or talked to, because you're an influencer in the homeschool world, have you seen people redeem that and change that perspective?
Yeah, you know what? I'll speak to it this way. I think that, well, it's not an I think. The Bible tells us that God equips the called. And so if we are called to do something different with our kids, if we are called to pull them into home, we know we're called to parent them, or he wouldn't have given them to us. We are called to parent them. That means he equips us. And so the whole idea of, I don't have capacity, I don't have the patience, I don't have the resources, I don't have the time, I don't have the money. Throw in any blank excuse, really. Throw in all of them at once. We are limiting God in the story when we do that. So if we are putting it all on ourselves, then that means we're forgetting how strong God is in our weakness. And we want that ability to pull him into the story, because we don't want to rely on just ourselves, because yes, it will fail if we just rely on ourselves. But that's why we really need him to be a part of it. God, give me the strength, give me the patience. And there are days I don't have it, and that I have to really, really call on him and really, try and stop in my tracks and go a different way and soften my heart. There are those moments. Us as mamas, we have hormone cycles. We have those days that
we all need grace. That's the bottom line, right?
We do. We all need grace, and we have to give ourselves the same grace that God gives us. And he knows that we're human. He made us. He formed us. But that also means he wants to be our strength. And so we have to put him in that opportunity where he can be.
Yeah. I love it. Well, I think everything that you're saying is so encouraging. You've talked about some issues that the kids are facing in general. You talked about technology. What about emotional? And you mentioned it briefly, but anxiety and this rise of depression. And do homeschoolers see a difference in the anxiety of their children? Is that alleviated just by bringing them home? What are some anecdotes or things that you would speak to on that?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't take too much work to do kind of just a statistic study alone. So when kids are able to move, when kids are outside, I do a lot of studying on, just time in nature, time in creation, time in the sunshine. And thankfully in Colorado, we have so much sunshine, even when it's snowing.
I know. I love Colorado.
Comes right out. I grew up in Indiana. That's not the case. It's gray for like 5 months. And, when kids are in a classroom, they're forced to sit still. They're forced to keep their mouth shut. They have to raise their hand, and most likely, okay, hold on, we'll answer in a minute. There's so much shutting down that creates a lot of issues. It really, really does. And when a kid is able to run around in the middle of math, like, hey, let's just stop for a second, go play on the trampoline or go ride your bike for a minute. And just taking those breaks and going outside, getting some fresh air, or hey, go take your math outside on the trampoline. And then there's kind of this joint of play and math. And now math isn't not fun because we're having fun while we're doing the math. It flips the script quite a bit when we're able to, pull out of that environment. And I'm talking about the traditional public school environment. And there's so many funny videos out there that I've come across, at least, that really relate public school to a prison. And the more you look at it, the more the parallels are. I mean, we sit in the desk exactly the same. There's cinder block walls, there, all the things, and you don't have a huge view outside. And
yeah. Well, what you're describing is children are institutionalized,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And that's really what the traditional
right.
classroom model has become, is this. And what do you think are some of the side effects that causes?
I definitely think the anxiety piece, we mentioned bullying earlier. I think overstimulation, because you've got all of these things kind of coming at you, but they don't have an outlet on how to digest or process some of it in like the natural world that we are in. You know, when you're naturally just walking through life, you're taking things in at a timely, just a more natural time manner. But when we are having to download a bunch off of a screen or a PowerPoint presentation or a bunch of other things, it's just, oh, that's a lot to process. That's a lot to take in. You know, you've got social pressures, peer issues. My daughter, when she was in first grade, this was, you know, right at 2019, 2020 was her first grade. In the public school setting, she was always wearing these beautiful dresses. And she came home one day and she's like, I don't want to wear a dress tomorrow. I want to wear sweatpants. And I'm like, what is going on? Why do you want to wear sweatpants? And she goes, well, the boys are making fun of me. They're calling me some like really over the top girly thing. And I'm like, well, but you are a girl. Like, why is this something that's wrong? And so we take, you know, kids are so mean, and they don't mean to be, I don't think, but they say things that, you know, they're so fragile that things come across way harder. And that took her a long time to embrace femininity again. These little boys were just teasing her, and they probably liked it because boys tease girls when they like them, right? And so they probably thought she was cute or something. And anyway, so there's that, you know, social pressure piece of it that kids aren't mature enough to process on their own. And us parents miss that opportunity a lot to guide them if we're not kind of right there with them. And the teachers have, you know, they've got so many kids to look after. It's you're going to miss something. So obviously the identity confusion that we talked about earlier, the gender ideology issues, depression, and behavior issues would be the other one that I would say. I had an incredible interview with Sam Sorbo. She says, you know, really one of the best things. And she's talking about how when we are putting our kids in the government institution and expecting them to now behave in a way that we want them to behave, we're completely missing the mark. And I'm doing a terrible job quoting her, but really just the idea that if we want our kids' behavior to change, we have to change the environment they're in. And I've kind of since created this concept in my head of repotting. So when we want a plant to thrive and we see a pot or a plant in this, you know, little teeny tiny pot and it's starting to die, what do we need to do? We put it in a bigger pot. We freshen up the soil. We bring more nutrients. We bring it to maybe more sunlight or less sunlight, depending on the plant. And then we upgrade it. We give it a better home. We give it more nourishment. We talk to it more. We give it more attention because we're trying to make sure we save its life. And that's what we need to do with our kids. So often we need to repot them. That can be also in the homeschool environment. If they're not thriving, let's find a different curriculum. Let's find a different peer group. Let's tap into this co-op or, you know, this other resource over here. It's okay to need to repot your kids for a season if you see that they're starting to wilt a little bit.
Right.
So that's just kind of a fun.
The thing that you said that I'm just going, I hope people really sit on that, is limiting God. That's really what all these fears do, where we're like, I can never. But also I'm hearing you talk about the problems are coming from, I mean, we've also probably been indoctrinated ourselves as adults.
Sure.
This is what you do. You put your kids in school and they're institutionalized and they learn to stand in a line and be quiet and raise their hand to talk and not have these outlets and not have this whatever freedom, critical thinking, all these things. So obviously I'm a proponent for homeschooling. I love it. I think ironically, the problem and the fear that people say, I could never do this, it comes from them not having that at-home learning environment and understanding the benefits of it. So Hannah, you're amazing. I love it. Thank you for coming on. We love to close our interview with a best tip. So in relation to parental, maybe discipline or resources, what's your favorite resource that you would point people into? Now,
goodness.
Just to give you a plan B, the first one we're going to point people to is your podcast. Find your podcast. You're interviewing all kinds of experts on parenting. But what would you point others to if they feel like, I don't even know what to do?
Well, I don't want to cop out here, but I think the best manuscript that we have is God's word.
I knew you were going to say that, but that is the truth. The Bible.
Well, it's something we have started, and this is too life-changing to not say. We started to have a nightly family meeting. So we've taken in our nephew in this season. And so he's kind of become one of our kids. And in this season, we've had to kind of restructure our household a little bit. And so we have what we call family meeting. And I hated that term because it felt just like an icky, this is where parents sit down and tell you they're having a divorce or something like that. And so we started calling it TABLE, and it's an acronym, and I won't give it all to you, but we called it table time, and really where we sit down at the very end of the day, and we haven't missed one in 3 months. It doesn't need to be an hour long, but we sit down. Sometimes it's a devotional with the family. Sometimes it's prayer time. And we talk through, hey, what was something challenging today? What surprised you? What was really fun that you're proud of today? You know, we kind of talk through some of those things. And it's this moment that if we have the busy day, which we all do, we get, you know, we're driving in circles, we're trying to keep up on homeschool, we're trying to keep up on all of our activities and all the extracurriculars, and we have animals, so we're keeping the animals taken care of and all those things. We at least can come together at the very end of the day and check in before we go to bed.
Connection. Yeah.
Yes. And we have that connecting point, and it's really such a strong discipling point that my husband and I can really feel like, okay, because you don't want to go to bed and go, oh, did we miss something? You know, he looked really off today. Did we even talk about it? We don't want to go to bed like that. We want to address those issues, and we don't need to dig them completely up all in one setting, but we can at least create this space where we can have those conversations. Bringing biblical worldview into that, it has changed our atmosphere in our home and allowed us to talk, hey, you guys were really rude to me today, or, you know, whatever it was. And we talk through it. We don't go to bed angry anymore. We work through those things.
Amen. So, Hannah, that was great. I feel like that could have been the whole topic. Thank you so much. And we're going to put all in the show notes, all the connections, so you can find Hannah to hear more, because that was lovely. Thank you for being with us today, Hannah.
Thank you so much, Kate. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for joining us today. The Colorado Homeschool Podcast is a ministry of Christian home educators of Colorado. We have been motivating parents to disciple the next generation by embracing home discipleship that is Christ-centered, parent-directed, and free from government control. We invite you to join us in this mission. If you want to support homeschooling in Colorado, go to check.org/donate. In the meantime, share this with your friends and make sure you subscribe. That really helps us. Thank you.